the recent work I've been doing has been on, well, a lot on transformative learning, which is your topic here in this class. And so you're starting the EDD program, and is this your first course?
Yes.
Wow. I find that so exciting because this concept is so useful in understanding your own life narrative, your own life story, your personal development, your professional development, your spiritual development. And as educators, it's really helpful in understanding how your students, whatever age they are, learn and change in the most significant and deep ways. And on top of that, it's really, at the societal level, transformative learning helps us understand collective social, and even global change in mindsets. And in this day and age, with all of the stuff that's in the news and all the violence and everything and all the chaos we're experiencing, this is all the more significant. So the main purpose of the talk that I've outlined here is to describe how transformative learning works, and to describe how the transformative learning dramatically changes those people who go through the process, as well as the social impact that it has. Transformative learning is about the expansion of consciousness through reframing, reorganizing, and reinventing your core values and beliefs, your worldview, your self-concept and identity, and your entire way of thinking. In this definition, transformative learning is really a big deal. It is no less than a paradigm shift and a new way of being in the world. And so what I've done is to use several research methods to study this. And the first one is Autoethnography, which is a form of self-reflection that explores the researcher's personal experience and connects this to cultural, political, and social meaning. So autoethnography is one, and then oral history is the study of historical information about individuals and events through personal narratives and interviews. And then there's pilgrimages. The definition is something like a journey. The typical definition is that it's a journey to a place often holy or sacred, or to a historical place to pay homage or to commemorate people, events, or the place itself. It may be for a particular cause or a search. But a pilgrimage may also be metaphorical or inward, a journey that's inside yourself, as in meditation practice or even research, just library research or social science research, or even taking classes or doing a program like you're doing could be considered a pilgrimage. So this methodology of autoethnography and oral history both involve first-person accounts of identity transformation, personal awakening, and spiritual development, and even collective or social change, which we see in pilgrimages and many versions of transformative learning. So in this autoethnographic study, I examined the Coming Full Circle Peace Pilgrimage, which I began last year. A year ago in spring 2015, I was preparing to go on a year-long sabbatical from my teaching here at Webster. And I received a mysterious transmission. It came as a voice from the universe. Some people tell me it was a voice from God. Others told me I was hallucinating. Some others say I was having a stroke. But what it turned out was the mysterious voice was actually a spiritual call to pilgrimage. a peace pilgrimage for planetary consciousness. The cryptic transmission did not tell me, did not point to a specific destination, nor did it give me an itinerary or tell me this is where I should go. The pilgrimage was ostensibly to mark the 70th anniversary of the first use of atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The name Coming Full Circle Peace Pilgrimage refers to my return to Hiroshima, which I first visited in 1965. So as conveyed to me in this mystical transmission, my assignment in the pilgrimage was to highlight the rise of planetary consciousness in the nuclear age. The concept of planetary consciousness became clarified as I reflected on the historical significance of this 70th anniversary of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. The nuclear age propels a collective, planet-wide, some say spiritual, awareness which reverberates globally. This planetary consciousness is the recognition of the interdependence and interconnection of everything, all of humanity, all of nature, and all the energies in the universe. It is not just an intellectual idea, it is emotional, bodily, sensual, and spiritual, as well as intellectual. So August 6, 1945 is a milestone date for humanity and planet Earth. On this date, the world witnessed the first use of an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, and then 3 days later, Nagasaki. 130,000 were killed on those 2 dates alone. Another 100,000 would die within a month from burns and from the radiation effects of the bomb. Symbolically, the nuclear age was born out of the ashes of Hiroshima, and the world would be changed forever. The destruction would be felt far beyond Japan. Humanity became aware of its own capacity for unthinkable violence, massive destruction, and unconscionable cruelty. This awareness spread across the planet, really, and across the solar system, the Milky Way galaxy, indeed the universe. Paradoxically, the birth of the nuclear age would also awaken a collective planetary consciousness, also called global or universal consciousness, and peace-mindedness or holistic thinking. And now there's this term called the sustainability mindset, which is also the same thing. In 1947, Hiroshima's mayor Shinzo Hamai announced the first Hiroshima Declaration of Peace, in which phoenix-like revolution of thought for a culture of peace would rise as the central theme. The declaration states, "This revolution in thinking ought to be the basis for an absolute peace and give rise to a new life and a new world." Hiroshima City was transformed into a sacred place where affirmation, compassion, and gratitude graces everyone, whether a resident or a foreigner. So the tagline for the Coming Full Circle Peace Pilgrimage became emanating the gift of peace. The nuclear age consciousness and the planetary mindset is about humanity, the planet ecosystem, and society. That we have the technology and the capacity to destroy all three. And I should add that we also have the inclination at times to destroy all three. Witness all the things going on now. But we also have the faith that we can save humanity, the planet, and society from destruction. We have the imagination, the creativity, and the motivation to affirm and uplift all three. So the first stop in the pilgrimage was Humboldt County, California, in July 2015. In the 12 months, there were stops in 5 countries across Asia, 6 in Europe, and about 20 U.S. cities. I accepted invitations to give lectures and workshops and presentations at college campuses, at peace museums, and at academic conferences. The invitations are still coming. 2 weeks ago, I was in Hong Kong. Next week, I'll be returning to Humboldt County, and then Honolulu, and then South Korea, before returning to start the Webster fall semester. So the genesis of this 2015 Peace Pilgrimage goes back to 1965. I was a high school student, not quite 17 years old, a third-generation Japanese-American, they call that sansei, and a U.S. citizen, and I was living in Honolulu at the time. I was preoccupied with the then raging Vietnam War. When I turned 18, I would be required to register for the Selective Service System, the draft board, and I was worried that I would eventually be drafted and sent to the battlegrounds of Vietnam. In summer 1965, I had the opportunity to travel to Japan with a scout group on a goodwill exchange. And at first, the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park and Museum seemed like just another historical memorial. Remains of bombed-out buildings, a monument to all the children that perished, an eternal flame that would not be extinguished until all the nuclear weapons were abolished, and a peace bell. But I was overwhelmed by the exhibits in the museum, the images of violence, destruction, and death, the horror stories, seeing the dark side of human nature, and the realization that I, or we, everyone, could perish in a flash without warning. And I am, we are all vulnerable and mortal. Well, with all that, I had a meltdown. I shut down, completely numb and withdrawn. I couldn't talk to anybody basically for about 3 days. But in that state, I could see everything for what it was. I felt the profound suffering, the unbearable pain, the never-to-be-recovered losses, the insanity, the hypocrisy, the injustice of it all. I could not wrap my mind around this in any rational way. Still can't. Unthinkable. When I emerged from the meltdown, I had only a vague awareness of what I experienced in that numb state. I knew that it was something profoundly impactful. I knew I absolutely could not participate in the military, and I knew that when I turned 18, I would register with the draft board as a conscientious objector. I knew that my life and my future would be shaped by what I just experienced, though I had not any awareness of the specifics of that. So fast forward to now, and it's April of 2015, a year ago. I realized that when I was in that altered state 50 years ago, I heard prophetic voices. They said, "You were meant to come here to Hiroshima. This is the culmination of your first peace pilgrimage. There will be many more in your lifetime." Wow. I had not known that I had heard these voices at this before. And I had also never before used the word pilgrimage applied to myself. Yet, when I reflected on it, I realized that I have journeyed many times and to many places, yes, as a pilgrim, but without consciously knowing or acknowledging that peace program was part of my identity. You could say I was a closet peace pilgrim. And now answering this call to embark on the Coming Full Circle peace pilgrimage would be like my coming out party. So what does my story have to do with understanding transformative learning? To put it simply, I experienced the disorienting dilemma which made me question what I had been taught and socialized about the world, about my society, about myself. I went through the process of deconstructing my world and my identity, and over the years, I reframed the thinking about myself, my values, and worldview. The result was a new way of thinking, which could be called, in part, the planetary consciousness. It's still in progress, and I used the soul awakening prayer to kind of describe this state of being. This is from James O.D. Soul awakening, and this refers to yourself, but then you go through it and you can think about your community or the people in the room, and then you think about it in terms of the people in the world, and then you think about it with all creatures in the world, all beings in the world. So if you go through this in the stages. So it's for yourself. You start with yourself, like soul awakening, heart opening, light shining, love flowing, wounds dissolving, and peace radiating. Okay, so it turns out that this is the very explanation for transformative learning. It explains the stages for a person who makes a paradigm shift, and describes how planetary consciousness may develop. So going through these stages is not a matter of hours, days, weeks, or months. Meaning making is a lifelong process. It would be decades later when I consciously would realize my own life purpose, and even now it's in flux. As meaning making continues, the shift in consciousness and the new way of being becomes catalysts for transformative learning in others. My colleagues and students attribute some of their own deep learning or healing to insights I have shared with them. I've led international travel courses in which some students experience as peace pilgrimages, culminating in epiphanies and deep learning. The commemorative tributes and peace communion services at memorial sites that I've done several in the past year also inspire audiences to expand their awareness. So the corollary to autoethnography is oral history. And over the years, I've interviewed Hiroshima and Nagasaki A-bomb survivors. They're called hibakusha. The accounts of the bombing of their city and the aftermaths have been life-defining experiences. The survivor or hibakusha stories have a lot in common. They tell about the sunny Monday morning of August 6th in Hiroshima or August 9th in Nagasaki. The flash of white light, the buildings are burning or collapsing. Their co-workers, family members, or schoolmates are trapped and burned. People everywhere screaming, crying, mother, teacher, help, help, or water from the burning and the heat. Not only on that day, but really for years afterwards, hibakusha experienced more horrors: radiation sickness, leukemia, depression, guilt, humiliating treatment, social isolation, and discrimination. I mean, what more can you imagine? But what strikes me about most hibakusha stories is the enormous gratitude. We do not expect gratitude with these terrifying and awful experiences. We expect sadness, we expect bitterness, anger, or despair. Gratitude is the last feeling we expect in so much suffering. Yet, for many hibakusha, gratitude is foremost. One hibakusha, Miyako Matsubara, came to my class that I brought to Japan in 2009. She greets the class with a deep bow, and for Japanese, the lower and longer the bow, the greater the gratitude and appreciation. So when she finishes, the class applauds. She makes more deep bows, and bows even lower. I mean, just nothing but gratitude. Rumi Hanagaki was 10 years old when the bomb was dropped in Hiroshima. I met Rumi last October. And unlike her peers, she doesn't remember much of the morning of the bomb, nor does she have memory of the years following. As an adult, she would participate in these sort of talks among survivors at local schools and churches, but she wouldn't have much to say because, she lost all her memory. But in 2003, her memories would be unlocked, and she would recall everything with vivid detail. The images, the sounds, the physical sensations, even the smells and tastes. She describes this as a massive download, and she explains, "I lost my memory for 58 years. Now I believe God has asked me to remember so I could tell others what happened." So I hear these prophetic voices every time I arrive in Hiroshima. When I step off the Shinkansen, the train, onto the platform, this wave of feeling comes over me. My knees buckle. I take small steps. I realize that I'm feeling the spirits and the souls of those who perished and suffered there. I feel their hurt. I feel their pain and their crying. But also I feel the same gratitude and hope that's coming from them. And I hear the voices. They say, "Thank you for coming to Hiroshima and remembering us," they say. So when we're able to listen, whether it's to these hibakusha stories or to these spirit voices, something happens. Our hearing them helps heal their hurting. Hearing them also helps dissolve the rage, the inclinations, and the inclinations toward violence. It brings peace. And they say, "Thank you for listening," and when they say, "Thank you for listening and remembering us," it heals us. Hiroshima and Nagasaki are both now sacred places because of these energies, you might say. And there are many other sacred, other sites of profound suffering on our planet that have transformed like this. And this is happening right here too, on the very grounds that we're standing on. In Ferguson, where Michael Brown was shot 2 years ago, that's emerging. The eternal voices of Hiroshima bring comfort, reassurance, and strength. Genuine hope and endless compassion emanate for us all to experience. This is the gift of peace, part of the planet-wide collective consciousness that has been radiating for more than 70 years. From the ethnographic study and the oral history interviews, we see examples of transformative learning defined by Croft and Cranton as this deep shift in perspective in which habits of mind become more open, more permeable, more discriminating, and better justified. The shift in consciousness is visible in my own examples, as in the openness to hearing the prophetic voices, or in observing the hibakusha's endless gratitude in spite of so much suffering. The shift in consciousness is at the same time an advancement in identity development, especially on the spiritual, emotional, and intuitive dimensions. Transformative learning as the awakening of collective consciousness is also observable in examples like the revolution of thought, declaration of peace that Hiroshima City initiated in 1947. Personal transformative learning is contagious, noticeable in pilgrimages, but perhaps also in your own life stories and life narratives. It has reverberating effects, inspiring new transformative learning in others who then pass it on. Personal change becomes collective change in the way the Zen master Taitsu Kono described, when I change, the whole world changes.